So I want to get down to brass tacks here. Let's cut through all the bullshit and get right to the point. A lot of people, I think, are very confused about what's going on, and I think a lot of people have a lot of confusion about trying to figure out what's going on with things, political stuff, or what's going on in the world. And here's the bottom line: you're in a war, okay? You're in a legitimate war, and there are many different wars going on. One of the wars that we know about most is the gender war. You see, when you're trying to invade an army, you don't go out and tell you don't go out and tell people that hey, look, we're going to go invade you on this date, and we're going to do exactly these things, and that's what we're going to do, and they shake on it. No, you do it covertly, you do it subtly, so that when you're invading, they don't, you slowly work them down so that when you finally get there, they don't have time to prepare and they take over. And that's why most people, they don't think that they're actually in a war right now, that there isn't some form of civil war going on right now. You see, wars don't have to be fought with guns or tanks. We don't see tanks and guns on, AK-47s and people shooting things on the street. We don't see artillery shells going off by our houses. We don't see that. Now, there's many different forms of war. This form of war is psychological warfare. It's an advanced form of warfare, and that's why most people don't think that they're in a war, and people are confused, and they don't think that, they don't understand what's going on. It's because they're at war, and when you're at war, it's chaos. But one of the most well-known wars is the gender war. Now, what's the whole point of the gender war? Basically, it's to cut off the army from where it starts. If you know that the person the other army that you're fighting, if you know they're sending in troops, then there's a location that they're coming from. You want to cut that off. You want to cut off where those troops are coming in so they don't send any more to attack you. And so what do? They do the exact same thing on us in the population. It's called the feminist agenda. Now, the whole point of the feminist agenda, one of the main talking points I've talked about, is the whole point of why they've replaced the whole point was basically to come in and replace the kids with the raising of the kids with the state and go into the home. Now, what's the whole point of that? You have to understand that the people who run the show here look at us as insects. They treat us and look at us like insects. When you have a pest, what do? You don't kill each and every single one that you find because they keep coming. That's not going to kill the problem. There is a nest, i.e. the home. The home is the nest. And that's the whole point of the feminist agenda. That's why they replace the raising of the kids with the state, i.e. that's called daycare. Now, women who go out and they have independent jobs and they go out and I'm an independent woman, I'm working a corporate ladder. All this other bullcrap. Because then they're forced to outsource the kids to daycare, which is the state. And what that's basically doing is not only are they destroying the nest, the home, they are taking the very people in that nest and converting them to their army to fight you. So the very people that you thought were your quote-unquote friends or whatever have been co-opted to fight against you. Because now this is the case of in vitro fertilization. Test tube babies. They get to control what the army looks like. They get to control what the outcome of that army is. This is another example of how the school system is basically the very Department of Education. They took the very same model of communism and the way that the communist states and countries raised the kids and the educations of the kids in those communist countries. They took the exact same model and they implemented it in the United States. Because what are they doing? They're converting the armies. They've already broken through to the nest and are poisoning it. And now they're converting the armies. You see, they look at us like insects. That's the whole point of the feminist agenda. Why they wanted to come in and targeted the home specifically. Because that's where the nest is. When you're fighting an army, you want to cut off the people that are your resistors. And that is why they do that. So the gender war. In a war, it's a slow burn. They've been doing this stuff ever since the 80s, and I think it got really hardcore in the 90s. That's when they really started pushing it, with raising women to be these narcissistic, self-entitled princesses, to basically aggravate both sides to the point where they end up being in physical confrontation. And what do we see today? We see videos on YouTube of men and women getting in fistfights now, physical altercations. Used to be verbal disagreements, I think, and then it got progressively worse. Now people are videotaping people on YouTube, men and women fistfighting. It's just disgusting. It's even more ridiculous. But the whole point of that, it's obvious that the man is stronger. That's not the point, though. The point is to get both sides in physical confrontation while they take over, so that you don't have time to defeat the enemy as they invade. You don't have time. There is no resistance. Basically, they've pushed men into a corner with divorce court and the laws and various other institutions to basically push us into a corner so we have no other choice but to defend ourselves. I mean, what are we supposed to do? Just sit there and get slapped and punched in the face? That's what they want us to do. They want us to do that so that we don't have any other time to defeat the real people that are coming in and invading, so to speak. And so that's the whole point, is to invade the nest, to turn each side against as they take over, and convert to help take over the very home, your very sense of essence. But that is the feminist agenda. That is the ultimate goal. Destroy the army, cut off the supply, destroy the nest, the home, the children, the raising of the family. Destroy that. When you do that, no more resistance. And that's how they look at us, like insects. You can learn a lot from how insects and various other species of insects and animals, mainly insects, because it's kind of a hive mind. That's kind of what we live in. We live in in a hive mind. And so it's a lot. You can look a lot of how things operate in the world by looking at how ants behave, because ants behave very much like what we kind of see today with the hive mentality. And so they destroy that nest. That's the whole point. That is the point of the feminist agenda, to eradicate the armies, the resistance. But that's the bottom line. We are in a war, and I hope, and what MGTOW has done is give us some training in this fight against this war that we are fighting, in this gender war. Metaphorically, they've taught us how to punch. They taught us how to do hand-to-hand combat, how to avoid the traps that the enemy has laid for us, so that we can avoid them. They've taught us how to avoid those traps. That is the point of MGTOW. Is it has been a school of defensive measures, a school of training. You see, the thing is, this has been going on for so long, and people have never been told that this is warfare. They don't teach you this in school. They don't teach you these forms of warfare. It's advanced. And so because they don't teach you these forms of warfare, and they keep you stuck in the past and frickin' George Washington days, and they teach you that crap, meanwhile, they're implementing legitimate acts of warfare on us every single day. And you don't even know it, and most people don't even know that they're in a war right now. This is a legitimate war. We're in a war right now. It's subvert. It's covert. It's subtle. And the weapons used in this war is television, smartphones, social media, TV shows, music, games, movies, you name it, everywhere, anytime, any day. When you go out in public, from the time you come home, it's 24/7 propaganda everywhere. That is warfare on you. That is things of warfare. Every day, everywhere, anytime, any day. Those are the weapons used of warfare. Anything that they can do to trip you up, they're doing it. And it's every day, everywhere. And so what's happened is we're starting to reach a boiling point, a spillover point, where things are beginning to get physical. Part of this is the whole thing with Antifa. It's a hot spot, I think. It's a place where if it is gonna spill over and start there, it's probably gonna be with those people. So keep your eyes peeled on those people, because they're legitimately on the street in urban areas. That's why you need to avoid urban areas if you're into prepping or survival. Get the hell out of an urban area, because that's, on a grander scale of things, that's where it's going to start, because that's a center hub of where people manifest in areas that people are at. It's just like the hive thing, right to the nest, right to where all the people are, right to where it's all emanating. So keep your eyes peeled on that Antifa. If anything, it's going to be festering. It's going to be looking out in that area. But it has reached a spillover point, a boiling over point, where it's beginning to become a physical altercation. Now we see videos on YouTube of men and women fighting each other. You see, it's beginning to escalate. The war is beginning to escalate. And people don't even know it. They don't even know they're in an actual war, and the tools in this country that are used against you are legitimate forms of psychological warfare that they have been using on people. So that leads to one thing, survival. How do you survive a war? I've been learning a lot about survival and prepping and all this kind of stuff, and so I want to apply some of these things. First of all, you can't trust anybody. Your neighbors, your friends, your family, you don't know what their ideologies are. You don't know what kind of how much they've been brainwashed. You don't know. I mean, you can pretty much tell when they start speaking about certain topics or certain issues. You can get a good idea. That's basically how to spot the resistance against you. The people are being co-opted to fight each other. That's the whole point. Even though, you just can't trust them. You can't trust anybody. You're really on your own here. People who do have similar common grounds. You see, the problem is that this stuff has been going on for quite some time. That most people can't get along anymore. There is no more unity as in a legitimate army forming against some form of attacker or an invader. They have really hit us hard. We have been hit very hard for very long, and we haven't even realized it for quite some time. That we're being attacked and that this is a war. And so it's very difficult these days to get people to really be solidified in one common thing, one common goal to fight it, because we've been waged war against propaganda and brainwashing and the racial war, the racial division. See, there's been a great divide in this country. Men against women, blacks against whites, political views versus other political views. Social causes, social justice, all these various different things. There has been a great divide. The line in the sand has been drawn of those from red team fighting blue team. And so it's very difficult to get people now to get people to be in unison against a common goal to stop something. It's very difficult, because they've been waging this propaganda on us for years, and it's really fucked people up. And there's not a lot of people out here who have managed to kind of break free of it. Very few people. And if you're smart, you know that there's not a lot at all. And so that leaves you very much in a lone wolf position. You are on your own in most cases in this war. You can't go out and talk about this stuff with people, because that'd be like sticking your neck out into a burning furnace. Because the laws and the various things have not allowed any kind of resistance. None. And so you're very much on a lone wolf position. You are a survivor in a country under war, a psychological form of warfare that has taken place for years, and it has begun to reach a culmination point, a boiling over point, where physical altercation begins to manifest itself. And it can only get worse from that point forward. So I suggest people get into prepping, learn how to defend yourself, because it's at that point now. It really is at that point now. And this is the problem with war. This is why we try to avoid war as much as possible, because nobody wins a war. Everybody gets hurt. Everybody will be hurt by this. And that's why war is so ugly. That's why war is such a negative thing that we don't want to happen, because it's all out. I hope my videos have, I've tried to lay out battle plans in my videos in the past and the ones I do today. I try to lay out battle plans for, how to, specifically in the area of the gender war, how to avoid those traps. You are a soldier. Your basic instructions are to, it's like this. You're a soldier, right? You are being instructed against your enemy. We're going to inform you about your enemy. Your enemy works so covertly, uses manipulation techniques, forms of psychological warfare, and warfare against your biology as well. thing is, the enemy doesn't know that they're the enemy. They're being brainwashed and mind controlled to be your enemy. The person inside of that probably isn't like that, but the fact is, the case is that they have been targeted to go against you, like a Manchurian candidate. And here's the tips and tricks that they use, and here's what we're going to tell you how to defeat it. Don't get married. Don't hook up with women because it's dangerous. That's one of the big traps that has been laid for us soldiers in this war. The whole laws have been set up to destroy the nest, to destroy the resistors, the mankind. Destroy it. That's what they want to do. So all the laws are set up against us now, and it's only progressing and getting worse. Avoid that. That is one of the main pitfalls. No marriage. You know, and here's the thing. We're damned if we do, and we're damned if we don't. The whole point is they're trying to destroy the nest, but then again, we don't want to have kids because the whole point is the government's trying to take them from us because they've invaded the nest, the home. They've done that. So we don't have any other option but to defend ourselves. Going back to the thing of pushing men in a corner, poking a bear with a stick. We have left no other option but to defend ourselves. And so that's how it's going to be. That's just the act of war. That is the state of war. You either pick up a gun and shoot back or you will be killed. That is the unfortunate state of things. So we're instructing men in the mgtow community not to form an army like of a group, but to be informed that there is a war going on, a civil war. And here is the goals and things that we're trying to inform people on, and how we need to take defensive measure against the traps that they've laid for us. You know, this is the state of affairs. And this is why most people are so confused. Because they don't think that they're in a war, but they are. And it's chaos, and they don't know what to do about it because they haven't ever been trained before. They don't know what to look out for. They don't know what to avoid. So, that's all I had to say today. You know, I just wanted to get right down to it. You know, what's this whole thing about the feminist agenda, all this stuff. The feminist agenda is there to destroy the nest, the home. You cut off the army, you cut off the supply. And that is an act of warfare. That is an act of attacking you. I suggest that we all, first of all, you have to come to the realization that is exactly what's going on, is a state of warfare. And you have to learn how to survive in a war. This is a quiet war. There's no guns going off or bombs being dropped or anything like that. But it is reaching a spill point where there is physical altercations beginning to manifest. And just like a riot, one person throws a bottle, then 10 more people start throwing bottles, and then, you know, people start breaking glass. Then you have people looting and stealing things. Then you got people throwing Molotov cocktails and burning things, and then people start flipping cars, and then before you know it, the police are there, and then they start shooting rubber bullets at people, and then they start throwing CS gas in the crowd, and then it's all out at that point. It's all gets game on for them. And that is the state of any kind of conflict, if it's allowed to fester. So anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed the video today, and have a good one.